Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. We're now well under 24 hours away from the first Clasico of the season. Let's just remind you how La Liga looks going into this tie on Saturday. Barcelona, 3 points clear of Real Madrid at the top of the table. Hansi Flick's side was so impressive. Of course, have won every game, bar that defeat against Osasuna. Real Madrid haven't really clicked. Certainly so far. Maybe Saturday will be the time. According to the bookies, they are the favourites to get the 3 points at the Santiago Bernabeu. Barca coming in at 9-4, draw 3-1. For more, let's welcome Luis Garcia, who's very warm, very cosy, not cold at all, on a rooftop in Madrid. Alex Kirkland's with us as well, as is Stewart Robson. Craig, we've done a lot of these games since we got La Liga. Yeah. And there was something missing from the Clasico before, you feel. Once Messi and Ronaldo moved on, there wasn't quite the grandstand that maybe to draw people in. Yeah. You look now and you feel this is back to one of the marquee games because of the quality that both sides are showing going into this tie.
Yep, lots of great kids on show, some superstars now. Mbappe's there, Bellingham, Lewandowski back on form. New manager for Barca and Hansi Flick, who's had a terrific start to his managerial career at Barca. Managing the kids and you know the injuries, and in particular, the two teams coming off the back of something special in midweek. I mean, both coming in flying. It looked like Real Madrid would be chins on the floor after 45 minutes against Dortmund. They come out and put their best performance of the season in the second half, and then the Barca game was kind of funny, and I know we'll get into it, but defensively they looked awful for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, but Bayern Munich couldn't take advantage of it, and then we saw the good side of Barca going forward. So I think really exciting going into this week. The two teams have put a stamp down on their performances. There is no doubt, you know, you saw the odds there. Real Madrid are at home. They've also got the most experience out of the two teams. So this is going to be it's a big test for both teams, but a real big test for some of these young kids that have served their manager thus far pretty well. You
do feel, Stevie, don't you, what we saw midweek has just taken this clash up another notch?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Something feels better about this. Yeah. You know, last year it was Madrid and Barcelona, you know, because Barcelona were way off the pace. But you got to look at Hansi Flick, and so far, the incredible job he's done. I mean, take the kids away. The way they're playing is like an experienced team, but it's not. It's a bunch of kids. And unfortunately, you generally find out when you're playing with a bunch of kids when it comes to experienced campaigners that are needed in a game as big as this. And that is one of my worries about Barcelona in this game.
Luis, is it palpable within Madrid, you know, that this game, as we were just saying, has gone up another level?
Yeah, I think everyone is really excited about this game. I think that they could just make the point. I mean, it's been many years where Real Madrid arrive in a good moment, or Barcelona a good moment, or with some doubts, some of the teams. But so far, Real Madrid has been struggling maybe to find their identity in the first maybe 6-7 games. I think that they found a fantastic performance in midweek. And for Barcelona, it's been really consistent. But it's true that when you arrive to Real Madrid side, to the Bernabeu, you know that you're going to have to give something extra, because it's not going to be enough to what you've seen so far for this Barcelona, or even what you saw against Bayern de Munich. That is probably one of the biggest tests that Barcelona has had so far. So yeah, everyone is very excited here in Madrid, and everyone is having a lot of doubt to try to call it, because everyone is trying to predict what is going to happen, if Real Madrid is going to have enough to beat this high line of Barcelona, and everyone is concerned about if this Barcelona with those youngsters is going to be able to handle the pressure of the Bernabeu, the atmosphere that is created over there, and of course the speed and power that they got with Vinicius Junior and Mbappe.
This should be fun, Alex.
It's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. I think there are going to be goals. I mean, let's not forget, by the way, talk about sort of the profile of the Clasico being back where it ought to be. Last season's Clasicos were great as well. Really entertaining. Both games in the league, I was there at both of them. And let's not forget that Barcelona were actually the better team in both those games. Madrid won them both in the end. It was Bellingham that won it in the first game, Bellingham again in the second game, and those were points that gave Madrid the title. So those were cracking games. This could be even better, because as you guys have been saying, this is Barcelona looking like a proper team, Real Madrid not quite there yet as a team, but with the individuals that can cause this Barcelona team damage, because the way they play, this high defensive line that Barcelona play under Flick, the spaces that could give the likes of Mbappe and Vinicius, it's really appetising and it's difficult to call. And I think it's going to be entertaining because, like I say, there are pretty clear strengths on the Barca side, but potentially some weaknesses as well. And the same goes for Real Madrid. Real Madrid, they've had some amazing moments this season, but it hasn't been clicking. And defensively, they were so good last year, Madrid, over the course of the season, because as a team, they defended really well. That's gone away a little bit this year for various reasons. And so, like I say, all the ingredients, I think, are there for it to be a very, very entertaining game.
And it's not only the players, of course. You take a look at the two coaches, two proper coaches going head-to-head, Robbo.
Flick, as everybody has said, has come in and done a great job with the youngsters, but also the way the team are playing. They're playing some great attacking football. We know that. Rafinha making those forward runs. Lewandowski looks a totally different player. They let Yamal play out wide and go past people. The midfield have got great rotation. They pass it well, but they're passing it forward a lot more than they did under Xavi. But there's also that worry, as everybody said, that high offside line. Will Real Madrid cause it problems? And will Ancelotti get the best out of his players to make sure they play at a high tempo, they keep hitting those big diagonals in behind Koundé, in behind Balde? Both managers are doing a very good job at the moment, but it's going to be a very good tactical battle in this game. And there's a bit of mystery about it as well, because when you look at the two games that Craig was talking about, both games, both sides in Europe had their good moments and their terrible moments as well.
I mean, we've talked a lot in the last few days about this Barcelona high line, right? And we kind of, even though they won comfortably against a Bayern side that were actually quite embarrassing in the end, and we're embarrassed by Barca. We talked a lot, even in victory, about their defending. But you can look at Real Madrid and say, yeah, 2 games in isolation, Celta Vigo and Dortmund, you could have driven a bus through them.
Yep.
I mean, it was poor. I mean, Dortmund, what were we, 6th or 7th in the Bundesliga, have really struggled. Have started well in the Champions League, but they played 2 of the weaker sides up until coming against Real Madrid. And they caused Real Madrid problems. Celta Vigo caused Real Madrid problems. We've done a lot of the games this season, sat here on Sunday afternoons, and teams have caused them problems because they haven't quite been at it. Now, we saw the other side of that in midweek, where it was all about going forward and just how blisteringly pacey and quick and clinical they were. But Lucas Vázquez has made 2 mistakes. An experienced player, sitting in for Dani Carvajal, but 2 games he's made the same 2 mistakes. He hasn't covered round as a right fullback like he should, and they've been caught. And so he has got some thinking to do, because Rafinha, you could argue, who he's going to be up against, is arguably the informed player in La Liga, and he showed it again in midweek. So there are some big decisions here for both managers. Of course, I think I don't know who's got more choice because of all the injuries or not, but there are areas in each side. We could sit and say the high line from Barca, the youngsters, but then we look at this more experienced Real Madrid side, and they've also been making mistakes. So, I mean, if this is a 0-0 draw, I would be absolutely... I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it. But it's never, ever going to be a 0-0 draw. Not with these 2 defences.
We saw that attack, and we know what Real Madrid bring to the table. This is Balde and Pedri speaking ahead of the game and what tactics they're looking to employ against Real Madrid's attack.
Madrid tiene grandes jugadores arriba con un talento increíble. Pero bueno, al final nosotros tenemos que enfocar en lo nuestro, en nuestro trabajo, en cómo hacer lo mejor de cada uno, y estoy seguro que va a ir perfecto.
Especialmente ante un rival tan rápido, ¿te preocupa en ese sentido este aspecto del Madrid?
No, porque creo que aparte de que la línea defensiva la tenemos muy bien y nos atrevemos y confiamos en lo que hacemos, también, por ejemplo, contra el Bayern tenían jugadores rápidos y lo hicimos y salió muy bien, así que no tenemos por qué desconfiar de lo que hacemos y creo que va a ir todo bien.
Luis, Pedri saying all the right things, but even with your Barcelona ways, you've got to concede there's absolutely no way they can go into the game against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu with the same tactics that they employed against Bayern, because that front line will just tear them apart.
But they will, Dan. They will. I think that's the way that Hansi Flick wants to approach every single game. And it's not. I understand that when you see that high line, let's don't forget that he's done it with Bayern Munich a few years back, and everyone knew that they're gonna have a high line. We're gonna need to bring those ball quick over the line, try to bring the ball quick to one side and the other side, and then use the space behind. But the problem is, Dan, that with this high line, what you make is a very tight space to play. It's not many players in the world that can manage the pressure of 2-3 players. That is what Barcelona does in places into the field, that they have the ability to manage the perfect pass that you're going to need to put, the timing on that pass, the run on that pass. That's why the Barcelona is the team is creating more offsides in Europe. Let's not forget that you put 20 players in just 30 square meters to try to play. And that's something very difficult to manage, because you have to grab the ball, have a look, see the run, put the ball over it, and try to put the ball exactly in the place that you need to put it. So it's not only about the high line. This Barcelona is working in a very precise way with that high pressure. So it's not going to be easy. Of course, it's going to be dangerous. You have to put and look after those movements from Mbappe and Vinicius. But I have to tell you that if you play against Bayern Munich this way, and you can manage to score 4 goals and only concede 1, I think that's going to give him, like Pedri said, a lot more confidence to the back.
The problem is, Luis, but surely you take a look at it and you put Rafinha as a Bayern Munich player midweek, then it is Bayern who are going home with 3 points. And this time it's not Gnabry, it's not Harry Kane, it's Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe who bring that pace and bring that quality in front of goal. Bayern's attack had an off day. They let Barca off the hook, didn't they?
Yes, of course, but again, it's not many. I think that, of course, Modric has got that kind of ability to try to put the ball under pressure in a situation where Kylian Mbappe or Vinicius Jr. can get advantage, but there are not many players. Again, I don't see Camavinga just putting a good pass. I don't see Militao putting a good pass. I don't see Rudiger putting a good pass when they are under pressure. So if Barcelona does the pressure in the same way that it's been doing so far, of course, there are going to be moments where you're going to have to run back. Of course, there are going to be moments that the players are going to be on their toes because there's going to be space, but they have done a very good job so far, and that gave the confidence to the players. If they can keep that line, if they can keep that focus and concentration during those moments, I think the Barcelona is going to be fine. And again, if they regain the ball, but Real Madrid is having a lot of problems on the build-up. If you can regain the ball at some point, you're going to have the team just working on the half of Real Madrid.
I've got to disagree with Luis there, by the way. I'm sorry, man. I've got to disagree with you. You don't. When you play such a ridiculously high, insane line, the man on the ball doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about putting it in the hole. I mean, they're so high. We're talking about the halfway line here. You know, we're not talking the far enough back where the goalkeeper can sweep. They're way away from the goalkeeper. So it's not actually about being perfect with your pass if you're Real Madrid. It's just about putting it in the space. Because nobody in that back line of Barcelona is catching Mbappe or Vinny if they get ahead of steam up. Nobody.
We talked about this in midweek, and Alex can maybe touch on this. I don't know what the press are saying, but we talked about Modric. The fact that Rodrigo is out probably means that Vinicius and Mbappe play, and Bellingham can then play as a 10, which means there's an extra spot in the middle of the park, which means he can have 2 physical dynamic midfielders and maybe squeeze a Luka Modric in, because Luka Modric, we were talking about it after the Barca-Bayern game, Luka Modric could have killed Barcelona if he was playing for Bayern Munich. Stevie, you don't have to be perfect, but how about somebody that's very deft at just knowing when to play that ball over the top, that little ball in behind to beat the offside trap? And I actually think that, you know, for those reasons about the injury and the fact that if Bayern do play that very high line, having somebody that can just dink little balls over the top for runners is going to be invaluable. So, I mean, I don't know if they're talking about Modric starting because of his age, but it could be perfect for him, getting a couple of bodyguards around them, basically, because Bellingham's now playing further forward.
Alex, are those sentiments being echoed within Madrid?
Yeah, I think the one question mark in the lineup that everyone's talking about is it's basically 2 midfielders out of 3, which 2 do you pick out of Modric, Camavinga and Tchouaméni for 2 spots? Modric, it's really interesting the way his role has developed this season. He's sort of become indispensable to the team again in a way that he wasn't last season because Toni Kroos was there. But Toni Kroos has gone, and you need a little bit more on the ball in midfield. And Modric has been doing that. He's been starting a lot more games than I think he was expected to at this stage. but it's because the other options in midfield just can't do what he does. So I think there's a strong case to start Modric. All I would say was maybe his worst game of the season was in midweek against Dortmund. He wasn't great, especially in that first half when Madrid were overrun. But yeah, I'd be tempted to start Modric. Then it's just a question of, is it Tchouaméni or Camavinga alongside him? I think Camavinga might well get the nod, and then Tchouaméni misses out unless Ancelotti wanted to spring a surprise and drop Tchouaméni into defence, as he's done once or twice this season. But I'd be surprised if that was the case. So yeah, I think there's a very good chance that Modric starts alongside Camavinga. Like I say, my only doubt is the fact that Modric started in midweek and he wasn't great. But yes, he's certainly got the sort of skill set that you'd want to look to exploit a defence like Barca's.
Robert, what do you make of it all?
Well, the one thing that's disappointing, I think, from Real Madrid's point of view is that Rodrigo is not going to be fit, because when you're playing against such a high offside line, we saw Bayern's players and we've seen them, Osasuna do it against them. We saw, I think, Sevilla on a couple of occasions, Luca Bacchio. It's the wide players that can make the difference. It's the diagonal, it's the straight ball for a diagonal run. They're the players that get in. If you play with two centre forwards and they've got to try and spin, they run offside. The wide players can see it. They can make the runs. So will he play with Vinicius Junior out wide on one side? Who's he going to play out wide right on the other side? Or can they split the two centre forwards and they play in between the fullbacks and the centre halves? But also, if you look at Real Madrid against Dortmund, and we've seen them in other games, if they play at walking pace and don't close the ball down, and Vinicius Junior doesn't work hard, and Mbappe doesn't work hard to close the ball down, and Modric can't get around the pitch if he's playing, then Barcelona can dominate the game and they can play like they did in the second half, where they played brilliantly, and they'll get their forward runners going in behind. So it's a great game to watch, a great anticipation, and a great tactical battle between two coaches.
The last couple of years, we've sat and sort of analysed Araujo against Vinicius Junior, and to my mind, a lot of the times the Barcelona defenders came out on top. There's been moments, but Jules Koundé could be on his own here if he doesn't get a lot of help from Lamine Yamal or a midfielder. I don't know if Frankie de Jong's going to play in the middle of the park to get him a bit of beef in there, but somebody needs to get across and help him if he is one-on-one.
And of course, it could be quite a week for Vinicius Junior. Ballon d'Or announced, I think, is it next week as well, Alex? A man who, there were some doubters about the way he started the season, but you take a look at that performance that he put in against Borussia Dortmund. Madrid love this sort of thing, don't they?
Yeah, there were no doubts after that second half performance. I was talking to colleagues after the game at the Bernabeu, trying to work out just when has Vinicius Junior been better ever than he was in that second half against Dortmund. And I couldn't think of an all-round performance in 45 minutes. Yes, he's been decisive in Champions League finals, in big games, but the way he played in that second half, I don't think I've ever seen him play. He was playing like a man possessed. It was incredible. And yes, he started the season a little bit off. We weren't sure why, if it was a fitness issue, if it was tiredness, his head had been turned by interest from Saudi Arabia, whatever it was. It seems to have been forgotten now, because he's been getting better and better as the season's gone on. And yeah, right now, he's the guy getting the headlines. And it's his strike partner, Mbappe, who we're still waiting for sort of a signature performance from him. I think, as I say, still waiting. It's only, October. It hasn't been that long. And his numbers are pretty good. 6 goals in 9 league games is absolutely fine. He scored a couple of really good goals among them as well. But we're still waiting for sort of an Mbappe moment, I think, this season in a big game. But Vinicius certainly delivered his against Dortmund.
How do you stop him, Stevie, when he's on that sort of form?
Craig said it. You got to get help.
You're right.
You can't leave anybody isolated with any. And the goals we've just shown you from the other night tell you why. And again, that's why this is such a tough decision for Hansi Flick. Because if you don't play a high line and you back off, well, you saw what he did to Dortmund when they were backing off. So you can't control them. So they've got so many big decisions to make. But to stop him, numbers. You got to get numbers around him whenever he gets the ball at his feet.
Let's take a look if there are any surprises when it comes to predictions. Really tough game to call, isn't it? I think that's fair to say. Let's take a look at what everyone has gone for.
Well, I know one.
There he is.
There he is.
Oh no, what a shock.
Hold on, we've put him at the top.
You haven't even got Barcelona scoring, Craig. 2-0.
Sorry?
You haven't even got Barcelona scoring.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, I just feel that it's going to be that sort of game. I think both teams are scoring.
I'll change it for you.
No, you can explain why.
No,
right, good, fine. We know Luis, we know he thinks Barca's going to be 2-1. What did you say, Robert? I didn't see there.
I said 3-1 to Real Madrid. Barcelona have been brilliant so far, and they play this dangerous offside line. I just think Real Madrid will have the players on the ball and the players off the ball to cause problems, and I think they'll score goals.
Alex?
I said 3-2. I think goals for both sides. I think potential weaknesses for both in defence. It's a blow for Real Madrid. There's no Thibaut Courtois, even though Lunin is a very, very good stand-in, as good a backup keeper as any team has got. But there are some weaknesses there at the back. We talked about Lucas Vazquez being a weak link right back. So I think Barcelona can score, but I do think that Mbappe and Vinicius could have a field day at the other end. So yeah, I've gone for 3-2 Madrid.
Luis Garcia.
I know that you were expecting me to pick Barcelona, of course, and maybe a little bit more my heart, but I have to say that after seeing Barcelona in the last 2 months, I think that you can agree with me also that they can win at the Bernabeu. I think they play far better than Real Madrid so far. It's true the Bernabeu is totally different. It's going to be a special game, very exciting, but I still that they can make it, and this young team is going to put a good performance and get the 3 points.
You can't fix the problems they had at the back in 2 days,
right,
and maybe one day, because Thursday would be a recovery day. So you think Barcelona's 2 centre-backs in particular, Kubasi and Martinez, they can fix that problem in one day? No, that's why it's 3-1.